Hey everyone. So yes, in the spirit of the last Woo video, I figured I would speak with you outside. And yes, this is the interview with Clive Ives, the keyboardist, synthesist, percussionist, sampler from Woo with Mark, his brother, who've been making music since the mid 70s, releasing music since the early 80s, and still out there. And Clive and Mark have just reissued their classic first album, Whichever Way You're Going, You Are Going Wrong. So we have a discussion here about that record. We talk about his life in music, sort of their influence, how they make their music, the reissue, of course, just general sort of feelings around their music. And we touch on the video I made about Woo about 3 years ago, which I will link to below, which is what Clive saw covering their music. And I talk about each record in sort of a fun way. So I'll link to that original video. That's how Clive found me, and we talked a couple of months ago now, so I'm just getting around to this now. I'll also put the link below to the Bandcamp for Independent Project, which just reissued the album, expanded, remastered with an additional disc of unreleased material. Sounds like their trove of archive recordings is not completely exhausted, but there's lots of good stuff on this new reissue, worth getting. I even do a quick comparison of the two original pressings and the reissue in the middle of the video. So, all right, here's my interview with Clive. Just a reminder, hey, if you'd like to tip me, I don't mention the tip thing, but I do have the Ko-fi available if anyone wants to do that. And I hope you enjoy this interview with Woo, with Clive Ives. Sounds like we'll talk again around maybe another project coming out. So, hope you enjoy my interview with Clive Ives of Woo.
Live without passion. Low down, a dojo in the world of fashion. Ambition, once prickly, is limpid, is static. Portfolio, your dreams lie now in the attic.
Right. Well, great to meet you, Clive.
Yeah, and great to meet you. As I said, I only found your video a few weeks ago,
Yes.
and
It was a pleasant surprise to see your comment there. I was like, oh, how awesome.
yeah, well, I mean, I was really enjoyed how you found an album in a supermarket
Yes.
and
That's-
in the fridge,
yes.
and then even better under I think it's your daughter's bed.
Yeah, that's correct. It was like a loft and it was sitting there and I did a lot outside and I live in Ithaca, New York. I work at Cornell campus, Cornell University, so I did some footage there. And yeah, I don't usually do that. I do videos all the time. You may or may not have seen that, but for some reason I wanted to do something special for the focus on your music. And so it's just what I came up with. It's something
Yeah.
fun.
Well, it felt like fun and it felt spontaneous, and in a way, I felt it was somehow tuning into our mainly we're not too methodical with our approach, so
Oh, cool.
it felt really good.
Nice. Well, yeah, I'm glad it resonated in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was about 3 years ago, I think I made that.
Okay.
So, and I don't know if there was anything that you released at the time that inspired it necessarily. I've been a fan of your music for a good bit, about 10 years, not as long as, not terribly long, but a good 10 years I've been living with your music. So, I think that year, I think we were all just listening to a lot of Woo. So,
Okay. Well, that's impressive. When I look at what's behind you, you've got a lot to choose from.
yes, yes.
Yeah. You love records.
I do. This is one of the rooms. There's another room where there's some more. Um, there's about 5,000 records here. A good deal. a good deal. I mean, there's not a whole lot room for more, so I'm currently in a process where I have to probably evaluate what are the priorities. But yeah, I have a lot to choose from. And I do have most, if not all of the Woo records. So
Right.
there was a few that were a little challenging to get actually, but I made that happen.
Yeah. Well, there was one that didn't appear on your video. Um, uh, which all is well.
I think I got that after.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I have them all here. Uh, pretty sure. Yeah, yeah. I think I might have gotten that just after.
That's the one. Yeah. That was a quite a small run of a guy I met in Germany who put
Okay.
that out. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed so you've jumped around with a lot of the labels. Is there a specific reason for that, or is it just kind of how it worked out? Worked out.
Um, I suppose uh, we don't really do very much actively to make anything happen, and we just sit back and wait for someone to come and say they'd like to release something.
Right. Okay, that's a good reason.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
nice. You don't
Yeah.
have to, push too much. It's nice to have people coming to you who want to work with you rather than
Yeah.
soliciting. Well, I want to, if you don't mind, I'd love to talk a little bit about, some of your history and I did get the most recent edition, even though I do already have the original version.
What
Oh,
how do you feel about the sound on this one?
I haven't done like a direct comparison yet.
Okay.
That's because I only got this a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
Okay, quick insert. In the middle of this Clive Ives interview, I really wanted to compare the original pressing of Whichever Way You're Going, You Were Going Wrong to the new reissue. As we were talking, I realized I hadn't done it yet. And we're going to do it right now. Insert, we'll be quick. Here's the original, of course, and the new reissue. We'll start with the original. We're going to compare the track Razor Blades, first song on the second side. Volume will stay the same. I'm just recording this through my condenser microphone, playing off the Thorns TD 160. about to end. So this is cut at Nimbus. So kind of a prestigious cutting of the original 1982. Let's see how this new remaster sounds. Again, that was the original remaster. It just says reissued or remastered, meticulously remastered. Don't really know what their process was, but they seem to be quite happy about it. There's been a bunch of reissues of this already. So let's find out. So this is the new one. New labels and everything. The dub sound, Mark playing guitar and clarinet, and Clive doing the keyboards and sort of processing. The remaster does sound very nice. I really like the clarinet. Clarinet's standing out a little more to me here. Overall, pretty nice, expansive sound. Sounding good. First one, or the original, sounding good too. I don't think this is a case where one sounds better than the other. I mean, the real draw for getting this is to get that second disc of record of unreleased music. So there it is. Compared Woo. Did the unthinkable. Back to the interview. I've really been immersing myself in the additional music, which I wanted to ask you a little bit about.
Sure, yeah.
I did read a little bit somewhere that you feel like you've done a little bit more due diligence to make sure the audio was a little better this time. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And what was
Yeah.
the process for that?
Well, I think over all these years, I've become much better at hearing what needs to be subtracted from our sounds.
Okay.
The hum, the hiss, the rumble, all the bits it doesn't need. And yeah,
There's the original ones for
there's the
those
original.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because the
Okay.
interesting thing with the original, we go to Nimbus, who are they're a
Yeah.
classical company,
Yeah.
and they put the record on and they sort of interviewed us. They sort of just tried to decide whether they wanted to press this record. And they said,
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, really, it was that way around. And eventually they went, yeah, we will do it, but on one condition, we won't do any further mastering on it.
So they didn't do anything. They just took
It,
your tape and
yeah,
dumped it in, essentially.
yeah. But I
Wow.
think because it was they're so good at their art, it still sounded good. But
What's Nimbus is they're world famous for some of their cutting. So
yeah, yeah. So it's still good, but I think with this one we've raised the game a bit more, really.
yeah, I'll just say for those who are seeing, so whichever way you're going wrong. This is the new edition as of a few weeks ago that's come out through Independent Project
Yeah.
Records, and this is the original from 1982, the first proper album. Although this you were recording many years prior to this, right?
I think it was about a 5 or 6 year lead in.
Okay, but and at that time, you and Mark were just recording with open-ended, right? It wasn't necessarily for a project. It was just sort of this is what you were doing.
We were just on a roll, enjoying turning tape recorders on and experimenting.
Which was a little bit of the
There we
yeah,
are.
a beautiful package. And I noticed with the robot and the X corridor, right?
Yeah.
Which actually is not in my pile here, but I do have a lot of inserts and a lot of extra materials, which again you get on this.
Yeah. Bruce is incredible. He really goes the extra mile and takes a lot of care with it all.
And that's of he's of Independent Project,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, this now, I prefer to find for artists and bands I'm mostly, very into. I like to find the original versions, but I wanted to get this because it has a complete separate LP of more music. So for
Mm.
those out there who know the first record, who have Woo, you might want to have a look at this just based on the fact of this additional music, which is even more dreamy. I was listening to it again today. Your music is a lot of things, but I think of dreamy as an aspect to it, and this additional music is even more so in a beautiful way. I don't know, so tell me a little bit about, was this music just not picked at the time? Is this stuff you found? Like how did you come about putting
Uh,
this music together for this
sure.
release?
Well, about a year ago, Bruce came to us. He says, I want to release this album, but I want to do uh, a, a mini album with it. And initially, he wanted us to go back to the same era, 75 to 80, to find material. But after all these years, that's the vault that's really pretty empty now.
Okay.
It's either the sound quality is even worse than we can stand, or we just don't like what's left anymore. So we opened it up to be from the 70s and the 80s. Um, so there's a couple of old ones. The End of the Attic, obviously, is from the original Attic track, just
Uh-huh.
the tail end. And the first track on the second side, Bar Lamb, was a really early one. But the others are later things. But we really just went, um, try to do a similar approach to how we worked with the first record, which was just picking various different styles. And with the first album, I felt we really got a good cohesion, even though each track was quite unique. And we really looked at it like that, going, let's just try and pick a variety of bits of music that will carry on from where the last one left off. And
Okay.
I'm really happy that on the CD, of course, it just runs through as one thing.
Yeah. So it all
And
feels like it goes together.
yeah, and the feedback we've had from people is that it really seems to work.
Yeah, that's well, one of the great things about your music is that it all feels timeless. It's hard to really pick where or what year or All Is Love could sound like, It's Cozy Inside, and you know every record it'd be impossible to tell you where it came from or what year, really. I mean, obviously. Is there something about what you were doing for some of these other records, some of the more modern records that you made that was different technologically speaking, or a different approach or a different technique, or does it all just feel like it's coming from the same sort of toolkit?
I'd say all through our time together, Mark and I, we've the change has been the technology,
Okay.
but really we sort of laugh really because we're just doing the same things we were doing on this first album
Mm.
in essence.
Right.
Possibly we're a little bit more professional with our engineering and a little bit more musical understanding and stuff, but in essence, it's the same.
Okay. It's just
Yeah,
a matter of what tools you might be using, but as far as your approach and how you're going about it, it's
yeah.
similar.
Well, I mean, I think in these early days, the, the technology really was because it was so limited. That was our challenge. Go, what can
Hmm.
we do with this particular bit of equipment? And in a way, the same thing's gone on. And obviously now I've got much more sophisticated computers and samplers and everything. but
Do
we're
you still
st
have your original tape machine and your original synthesizers, or
uh, right up here. I've got the synthesizer that Mark and I used on this album we're talking about,
wow, cool.
and I got it cleaned up last year, and we've been working with it again a few months back.
Okay. So it's still much in use, and like that's the thing with old machinery, old instrumentation, old instruments that they built to last. I don't know so much about today's, productions, but that's awesome that it's still in
Yeah,
working
it,
favor.
it's really well made.
Incredible.
That's a Roland, if we want to
Right.
do a bit of product placement.
Okay. But for all the people who are wondering about Roland synths,
Yeah.
Clive endorses. I was reading some of the liner notes for this, and it was talking about how Mike Allway came to find you, and he essentially was the first person to really want to, I guess, distribute and market your music, essentially.
Hmm.
Do you think if he was never if he didn't knock on your door, or if your music was never discovered, do you think you and Mark would have kept making music, or you think it would have stopped after that initial period? It seemed like
Uh,
it was just like it almost seemed like it was just sort of part of who you were at that time.
we were definitely loving doing what we were doing, but I think the timing was great that he came along and he brought a whole connection with the South London music scene that we weren't connected to at all, and it actually creating a record gave a sense of purpose to the whole thing.
Mhm.
And I think just churning out music endlessly with no one hearing it other than your grandmother, eventually you go, well, why am
At
I
some
doing
point,
this?
yeah.
Yeah. So to actually find an audience is really satisfying.
And it's impressive that so you've barely played live over the last 40 years, right? Whatever it is.
Mhm.
Yeah, you've done this all as a recording project, essentially. Word of mouth over the years. I first heard of your music when the first Drag City reissue happened, which was more than 10 years ago now. I think that's more like 15 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
I first heard of your music then and then heard some of it, but then it was a few years later where I really started getting immersed into all of it. And, it just felt like it was a whole world of music that as much as of things I've listened to, it encapsulates so many things. And everyone I've talked to about Woo finds something different about it. And that's what I think is, people who like jazz can find something, or folk, or dub, or experimental music, or fourth world music. I mean, there's a whole lot in there. And I mean, what is that? I'm just curious what your listening interests were at that time. Is it more of just being open to sounds and experimenting, or was there specific music that you might have been hearing from other artists?
Hmm. Well, of course, like everyone, we had our favorites, but um, I think we were lucky when we were late teenagers. There was a lot of great music going on in England, certainly. And the one American guy I loved was Todd Rundgren.
Hmm.
And when I heard Wizard of True Star, that was a great inspiration.
Another one who was recording himself and producing himself. Yeah.
Yeah. And just being so inventive with what he was doing. There was that. But I think we were very open to all music, really.
Hmm.
My brother was very much more into the jazz world, and we had an uncle who was a jazz sax player, and we went to a lot of pubs where he was playing,
Right.
and sometimes Mark would join in with that. So he had a bit more of a traditional understanding of music and a love of that stuff, and I was obviously more drawn to the more experimental electronic stuff.
Okay. But then there's just that's only just the framework, and then from there it's just sort of what your instruments can do for you and where your creativity goes, which is what that's just where the magic happens. I often would love to see how you guys work together specifically, but the other part of me doesn't really want to. I like sort of like the idea of just being more of a mysterious collaboration between you two, because it does feel like that. It feels like, what you've made. I can't even picture it being made in a way. It just feels like it's coming from this other place.
Great.
I guess that's more of a comment than a question.
um,
Well,
uh,
because I was always intrigued by like,
yeah.
so how is it working with Mark playing and you're manipulating with your synthesizer? I kind of, because I'm a
Okay.
musician myself too, and I'm always like technically thinking
Oh,
about what
how
that
do we
looks
do
like.
that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, literally, we would sit facing each other.
Hmm.
Mark would be with the tape recorders. So on would go the tape recorder. Let's say he was doing something with the guitar. He's playing the guitar. I'm there with my keyboards, and it would be all in one take. So he's playing and I'm manipulating what he's doing as it goes on live.
Right.
And then we go, okay, that worked. Let's try an overdub on that, and an overdub and an overdub. And then between us, we also had like percussion racks. So we could both crash and bash things around with that.
Hmm. Is
Um,
there a lot of rehearsing to this?
very little.
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah. And it was really, I'm very thankful to Mark. He really had this philosophy of he says, just put the tape recorder on. Because, like a lot of people who record stuff, it doesn't take long for you to do a brilliant take. And that horrifying moment when you realize the
Oh
tape
yeah.
recorder wasn't on. So he
Yeah.
just went, let's just get everything. And that's why we've got this vast archives.
Right.
And he was over yesterday, and he's. I thought we'd been through all our old DATs, and I've done it for years, looking through them. And he came over yesterday. He's now going back over what I went through, and
Mhm.
he's still finding things we both like.
Okay. So
And
so there is some more out there.
there's more. Yeah, amazing.
Great.
I mean, we just go. When he's playing me things yesterday, I can't have no real recollection of when we did it or how we did it, even some of them. And I think we're going to start working with some of those old tracks.
I'm curious. I think you may have done it on a few records, but the When the Past Arrives,
Yeah,
this is one that you took old music and added to, is that right? Or
there's little additions on there.
okay.
Yeah, normally it's because well, is there a normally? Quite often it's
Right.
a beginning or an end, just to make that something finish.
Yes.
I can remember Mark doing a few little guitar pieces to finish tracks on there. Um,
Okay.
but that's become our process, certainly in the last decade, that we have all our old archives, and there might be a really good like minimal sequence, a guitar track, and we just go, hey, let's see what we can now do working over that,
Right.
and then you can just take it into another direction.
Yeah, I was reading something from the vocalist. I think it was the vocalist you collaborated with, Eddie
Yeah,
Ruska.
yeah,
And he was confirming sort of the way I feel about the different albums is like I can't pick a favorite. I mean, there's so many great moments and it's all just they're not all the same either, but there's all this just they're all feel have their own inspiration and their own sort of feel to it. I know a lot of people talk about All Is Love as their favorite. The Frogs Fandango was the one my wife and I love playing that song.
hmm
It's a particularly very, and the other thing I wanted to ask is one might mistake this music as very, drug ready music. because it
Hmm.
has like this very psychedelic feeling to it. But that one literally does make me feel like I'm on like overdose of NyQuil or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And that's a good thing. Again, how so much of the music and the records together, it's just, there's so much to find in each one, and there's just a lot of pleasant and inspired ideas for everyone. So, there's the few that a lot of people favor, but I also feel like there's a lot of overlooked ones like this, and this is maybe for people out there an easy one to get, one that Drag City, who's very known for keeping their records in stock. I think this is in stock.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah,
You should be able to find this, but and as
yeah,
well as the new reissue, of course.
yeah,
So.
yeah.
Um,
That's one of Mark's favorites.
it is okay.
Yeah.
There's a beautiful promotional video they made too that used one of the songs that I found. I used at the end of the Woo
Ah,
video I did. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
um,
that was very touching for me to watch your video and see that at the end because
yeah,
I haven't watched that video for years. And it was like, oh, this is our life
yeah,
passing by. Uh,
yeah. No, I know. That was kind of intense actually in a way. My doorbell's ringing.
uh,
But so is there? I think there's as I look through your discography, there are some things that have not been reissued. Like one I hadn't realized, or maybe I overlooked, was the Live from Venus is a not a live album,
uh, Not at
or it
all.
is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
I've actually
well,
not listened to that yet because a lot of times I miss things digitally. So
okay. Um, well, that was a rare moment for us where we actually worked with someone else, and it was Dave Goodman, who was he's was became a bit famous for engineering the Sex Pistols.
okay.
But we met him after that Sex Pistols era, and somehow we all felt that we'd work on this project together, and we had like a 3 week window, and that's what we produced with it.
And is there plans to do anything with that in the future, or not as of now?
Well, no plans, no
Okay.
plans. Yeah. I mean, you, I think we've hit a place where because we produce so much music, we just sit back and hope someone's going to come along and go, "Hey, I'd like to put
Oh,
that out
right.
on a record." And
Okay.
I mean, we're working well with Bruce in independent project records. He's already got another one that we're working on for him.
Oh,
Uh,
good.
so if other things come along, that's great, and if they don't, that's also great because we just put our music on Bandcamp, and some people find it.
Forever Healing is the other one I saw that looked like there was some interest of some small comments I saw like, hey guys, don't forget about this one, or so hopefully we'll see that. But yeah, and then I know you've done some recent records, of course, some recent recordings. Your last full album is I have it here, right? I believe this is your most newest music, Paradise in Pimlico.
Yeah, yeah. I think that was my COVID album.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I was lucky enough. Rufus from Quindy Records contacted me, and he said he 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 liked to produce the music. So I sent him lots of little files, and he selected sections, and we developed that over about a 6 month period.
So this is the most recent, and the other one I wanted to ask you about was the Arcturian corridor. This is recent as
Yeah,
well,
also with Quindy Records,
right?
but the that was the Quindy's first release. That's the first one I did with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Always enjoy the artwork and the font. I love a good font, the Woo font, as I call it. Vocals. What's your thinking on vocals? You have some. At what point are there vocals that is it just if it comes to mind, if a melody comes to mind, you do them, or is there times where you have them but you don't use them? Is it just kind of whatever serves the song in the moment?
Um, when I look back, normally it's if Mark comes across some lyrics. So, for example, a lot of the songs that we've got on these albums are from an old friend of mine who what I thought was a really inspired poet. So he did Magic in the Dark, Up the Garden Path off When the Past Arrives, and The Poet's Progress. And he just said, "Hey, if you want to record any of these, go ahead." So he gave us the freedom to do that. And really, Mark would take the words away and then spend a couple of weeks composing something to go with it. And that's where with the songs, we became more sort of structured, I suppose, and considered with them. Of course, Mark, when he writes, it might end up being an instrumental piece, but he can be very busy just getting the chords just how he likes them.
Okay.
But the
Is
songs are his thing, really, and he's the singer.
I see. So as far as the songwriting, like that's it, a lot of times it starts with Mark coming up with chords or a song, and then you're doing a lot of the coloring and the the
Yeah,
additional sort of druggy bits and
yeah,
fun parts. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Does it work the other way around at sometimes where you'll come up with melodies and things as well?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I do really feel we've been, as two brothers, very fortunate to have spent so much time working together. We both bring something different to what we do, and sometimes his input in a way is more important than mine. And I quite like it when people talk about, for example, Into the Heart of Love, and they go, "Oh, the synthesizers are really mixed right back." And yeah, this one. And I'm rather proud of that I didn't dominate because I just thought he'd written these great pieces, and I kept the synthesizers just creating a bit of atmosphere. That's
And
the
this has
late
got the additional music.
Yeah, and that's the latest sort of version of it. Yeah.
Right. Into the Heart of Love is definitely gets mentioned as a go-to Woo record. I certainly love it. And I think this has got, is it two more sides of music or is it just one? I think it
Uh,
says it. This is a Palto Flats
yeah,
edition.
that's it's two albums.
Right.
Yeah. And it's just got an additional vocal version of It's Love at the
That's right.
end.
Yep.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I love the imagery and the artwork. Is that where does all of that come from? Is that the both of you?
Uh, well, All Is Well, it was Mark's drawing, the really funny one. But most of the yeah, so most most of I mean, I'm the one who's busy putting artwork together, and like so with this latest one, I supply the things to Bruce, and he's putting it all together so nicely. But I really love the visuals. When I was younger, I went to art school, and I did for a time work in a graphic studio doing record covers. And
Okay.
so I've got that behind me, which has really served me well.
Yeah, there's the photo. Oh, this is the photo. I love this photo. Is this you here?
Yeah,
That's you. Okay.
yeah.
I
That's
love
one
that.
of my sculptures I made at art school.
Okay.
Yeah. And we thought we'd put it on because it's a bit like the woo symbol.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Today I was listening to It's Cozy Inside. Now there's a lot of Woo records out there, people. If you're new to this to Mark and Clive, um, like I said, I suggest When the Past Arrives. I think there's a new reissue of this, and there's the new reissue of whatever you're doing right, whichever way you're going the wrong. I can never say it.
Uh-huh.
Whichever way you're going, it's wrong.
You're
No,
going wrong.
you're
Yeah.
going wrong.
Yeah.
But I listened to this today and man, I got lost at work just listening to it. I wanted to ask you about there you guys are, but what is this art about? This art was the
Ah,
first one of the first things I saw,
okay.
and I was like trying to because I definitely gravitate towards artwork. Some people do, some people do. I mean,
Yeah.
with record albums, I think most people who are into records love the artwork, but I definitely had to look at this cover for a while and just to just
Yeah.
figure out what is this all about?
Okay. So there's quite a lot of ways I could describe it, but each element in the picture is symbolic of one of the tracks.
Okay.
Um, and so that's in a way our dad, who was very logical and businesslike up in the attic, with his computer. Not that he had a computer, but that's
Right.
him. And that's our mum overhearing a conversation on the phone and looking pretty freaked out
Hmm.
about it.
Hmm.
And there's the Western is on the TV because we were watching a lot of Westerns.
Yeah.
And there's a purple pussy sitting there just over the mouse hole. And that's me. That's me with the little boy. That's me when I'm about 6 years old.
And this is your drawing?
So again, this is a mixture. The guy who's in the attic, my brother drew, and the woman I drew, and the woman in the frame was when I was on a train in Italy, and I was doing drawings as I was traveling around, and that was a nun sitting at the train station.
I
Uh,
just love it. Yeah, it encapsulates the music somehow. I mean, maybe that's, you sort of do your own work when you do your own sort of associations as you process art and music. So, but
mm,
I always got a lot out of this. So,
yeah, and on the top, what is it? Top left there,
mhm.
the cameras. It was just starting where we were living that cameras were going up. And I was very busy at the time reading George Orwell's 1984. And it felt very much like the beginning of, you're being watched and Big Brother
Right.
is watching you. And hence the idea you're cozy inside. You're going to stay inside because maybe the world is going to become more threatening and uncertain.
Still very much a topic of conversation today, no doubt.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good allegory for your music too. It's got a cozy feeling to it, you know. I mean, what do you guys have way that you describe your music? Is there something that is there, something about your
Descriptive
music?
words.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what's your feeling about your music?
I don't think I could answer that.
Okay.
I, I, um, I mean, because no one really understands what we're thinking it is. And just like when you walk around an art gallery and you hear people talking about different bits of art, everyone's perceiving it from such a personal perspective. It's extraordinary what people will make of anything you create.
Maybe a silly question. I make
Well,
music
I mean,
too, and people ask you to describe, you're like, I don't know.
yeah,
It's rock music or it's
yeah,
folk music.
yeah, yeah.
But no, I just wondered if because I like the idea of how people interpret your music is somehow unexpected. They might say things about it that you weren't thinking, and I that's nice, and hopefully it's good things. But it might sort of inspire you to sort of think differently in your own way about your own
Well,
music. So,
I mean, certainly from those early days where we weren't really getting any feedback other from each other, when you start getting reviews and people perceiving your music in a certain way, that's really a fascinating thing because
mhm.
you're then sort of you start to perceive what you're doing in a different way.
Yes,
And
right.
and and with this recent re-release, we've had about 10 incredible reviews about it. And no one's said a bad word about it really. And it's well, I mean, that side of it is just very encouraging that you just go, wow, it feels very good to carry on and keep working together.
So you do, or are there, I mean, do you have music that's currently in the works, whether there's something coming out or not, but is that something you guys also are doing, writing new music and recording new music?
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
Mark's become much more busy now with recording. As I said, we're working on something for Bruce. We've got about 30 minutes, and we're now looking at what we're going to put with that. We're looking for some more upbeat tracks. And
I know
yeah.
I wanted to ask you about the music to watch seeds grow. What was that about? How did
Ah,
that come about?
okay. So that was really we'd gone through our archives about 18 months ago, and we'd made 5 albums from what we thought was the end of the archives. And then I get contacted by Will at Ransom Note. He said, we've got this label, Music to Watch Seeds Grow By. Have you got anything that might fit? And I went, we've got this really ambient album.
Hmm.
So I sent it to him. He went, great. And we were the first on his label. He did short runs of cassettes.
Yeah, I don't buy a lot of cassettes. I'm hoping there's going to be a vinyl edition of that because I will be definitely into that.
Great.
Well, before the time runs out, I just want to make sure that everybody out there, because I want everyone to make sure that they know this is available. One of the classic Wu records, the first one from 1982, expanded to a double. These are still available, I believe, via the Independent Project label and the Sunshine series. That was the first sort of imprint, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's just a pleasure to have your music in my life. And my wife, I know we both are just when we want to sort of have like a night where we need to decompress or, relax or just like have a nice, relax, like good evening together. Woo is definitely like go-to music. So really thank you to you and Mark for making it all these years.
Thank you. It's
Yeah.
very, very nice to talk to you.
It's great to talk to you, Clive.
Yeah.
Anytime. Yeah,
Yeah.
for perhaps for the next release comes around,
We,
I'll
we'll
be
do
happy
another.
to.
Yeah. Great.
Great.
Okay.
Okay.